Well, hello everybody. It's Mr. Pouts, and we're going to do a little answer key video here on mm, fractions, our fractions test. So, remember this is fractions that we're doing. Ooh. All right. So, these first two problems we're going to ignore for right now. If you want to know how to compare fractions, we didn't really do much in this chapter, but um, you can certainly find a common denominator and tell which one is different. Or you can find decimals, change them to decimals, and then find which ones are bigger. For now, we're going to skip these two. We're going to go on to number 3, though. All right. So in number 3, we've got that John and Maria bought a medium pizza that has 8 slices. If John ate 2/4 slices and Maria ate 3/8 slices, who ate more pizza? All right, that's our task here. Pizza. If we have John, who ate 2/4, Maria ate 3/8. We can only compare those two if we change them to fractions or have a common denominator. So looking at these, if you look at the denominators 4 and 8, we can have a common denominator of 8. And we can do that simply by multiplying this by 2 on the top and on the bottom. Alright, so actually that fraction, if we rewrite it, is going to be 4/8. Alright, so then we know that John ate 4 out of 8 pieces and Maria ate 3 out of 8. And Mr. Pouts ate the last one. So John actually had the most pizza there between the two. Moving on to number 4, express each of the following fractions in simplest form. So we need to reduce them by finding a common factor amongst the numerator and the denominator. So if we look at this, 4/16, you can divide both the 4 and the 16 by 4. Alright, if you do that to the top and the bottom, we get 1 on top. 16 divided by 4 is 4 on the bottom, and that is fully reduced. 3/6. This one you might also have recognized, but 3/6 is going to be 1/2. And the way to show that is you can divide them both by 3. 3 goes into both of them. So divide the top and the bottom by 3. You have 1 on top, and you have 2 left on the bottom, and that's 1/2. Alright. 12/18. We can divide them by 2. Anything bigger? 3 might work. Or 6, I think, works. I think that's the biggest one. So let's divide it by 6. Let's try 6. 12 divided by 6 is 2. 18 divided by 6 is 3. So we get 3/8. I mean, 2/3. 2/3 is our reduced answer there. All right, and last one, 8/15. Let's see what could go into both of those. 2, no. 3, no. 4, no. 4 doesn't go into 15. 8. I don't think there's anything that goes into both of them, so we're going to leave it as 8/15. It does not reduce. Alright, that is reducing fractions. Let's now take some mixed numbers and change them to improper fractions. So if you can't quite remember how to do this, this includes take the bottom times the whole and add the top. That jingle that we sang together. Take the bottom times the whole and add the top. Take the bottom times the whole and add the top. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take the bottom. I'll write it out for this first one. 2 times 5, the bottom times the whole, which is 10. And add the top to that. So 10 plus 4, that's 14. But now you got to remember the last part because it's not in our jingle. It's you keep the same denominator. So 14 would be the numerator, and you keep the denominator of 5. 14/5. All right, next one. 1 times 6 is 6. Add 3, you get 9. So we get 9/6. And that one actually, if you reduce it, like we did with the last one, you reduce it by dividing 3 on both the top and the bottom, and you get 3/2. That would be your improper fraction. 4 and 5/7. 4 times 7 is 28, plus 5 is 33. So we have 33/7. And finally, 3 times 5, bottom times the whole is 15. Add 4, you get 19. And then the denominator is still 5. All right, let's move on to page 2. Now taking improper fractions and writing them as mixed numbers. So these, I would suggest writing out long division. So for this one, 16 divided by 5. Just so you can visualize, how many times does 5 go into 1? It doesn't go into 1. So how many times does 5 go into 16? And in this case, it's 3. And 3 times 5 is 15. So we have that 1 left over. And that's where we put that on the top of this numerator. So we get 3 and 1, oops, 3 and 1/5. Alright, second one, sorry, 18 divided by 6. You maybe recognize this before you even do it, but 6 doesn't go into 1, but does go into 18 3 whole times. And there's not going to be any left over because 3 times 6 is 18. So that just means our answer is 3. Alright, 19/4. 19. 4 goes into 19. 4 times 4 is 16. So we'll do it 4 times. And then we have 16. And we left with 3 left over, I believe. Yep, so 3/4. So we have 4 and 3/4. Alright, last one. 24/5. This one we're going to try and do in our head. 5 goes into 20. Well, 5 times 5 is 25, so it doesn't go in 5 times. So let's do one last. So we do it 4 times. That gets us to 20. But then we have 4 left over, so 4 and 4/5. Alright, and that is improper fractions to mixed numbers. Alright, we got a word problem here in the middle. Number 7. John has 50 ping pong balls that he bought in sets of 6. Ooh, I want to play some ping pong. How many sets of balls does John have if they're in sets of 6? So the hint is express it as a mixed number. So if we have 50 ping pong balls divided into 6 sets, we are changing 50, or we're doing 50 divided by 6. Again, 6 doesn't go into 5, so how many times does it go into 50? It goes in 8 times, which makes 48. Now we have 2 left over, so that would be 2/6. But maybe you recognize that 2/6 actually can be reduced to 1/3. So that would be 8 and 1/3. Alright. Alright, let's keep going. Let's do some adding and subtracting. Number 8 is adding just regular fractions. Let's do the second one first. I'm not sure. There is a little reason why. We're going to do the second one first. It's because it takes one less step to do it. Now remember, with adding and subtracting, you need to have a common denominator. You don't have to do that for multiplying and dividing, but these you do. Denominator. So for the second one, between 2 and 4, if you write out those factors, you'll find that 4 is a common denominator. So you don't have to do anything to the second one. We just keep it as 3/4. But we do have to change the first one by doubling the fraction, the new denominator. So we're going to double the numerator. Multiplying it by 2, we get 12. All right. Now if we add them together, you get 15, and you keep the denominator of 4, 15/4. Or if you wanted to change it to a mixed number, which it doesn't say either way, you can do it as 3 and 3/4. fourths. All right, back to the first one. A common denominator between 3 and 4 is actually going to be 12, so we do have to change both of them to a denominator of 12. So we can add them together. Okay? Looking at the left one, 3 times 4 gets you to 12, so we're going to do 1 times 4. You get 4. 4 times 3 gets you to 12 on the right one, so we're going to do 5 times 3, which gets you 15. And we add these two together, and we're going to get an improper fraction as well, which is 19 twelfths. All right? Or if you write it as a mixed number, you would get 1 and 7 twelfths. Alrighty. How about some mixed numbers? If we're simply adding them, common denominator. So I'm not going to explain each one. I'm going to show you how to do it. You can follow along. If you find the common denominator, you can then add the whole numbers and the fractions. Okay? Nice thing about the first one is it has a common denominator already. So we get, oops, 6 for the whole number. 2/5 plus 1/5 is 3/5. Next one. I'm change this by multiplying by 5, so I get 15 tenths. So 5 and 2 makes 7. 15 and 1 makes 16 tenths. We do have to borrow so that we are not having an improper fraction here. So it's going to be 10 out of 10. We'll make another 1, and then we're left with 6 tenths, which reduces to 8 and 3/5. So for subtracting, just like adding, we are going to do a common denominator and then subtract across with keeping the same denominator. So for instance, in this first one, they have a common denominator, so it's going to be equal to a denominator of 6 with 4 minus 2 is 2. And that reduces to 1/3. The second one, we need to change the first fraction so that we can get it to the same denominator of 10, because that would be the lowest common denominator. So we're going to do that by multiplying by 5 on the top and the bottom. So on the top we have 15 over 10 minus 4 over 10. And that will equal 15 minus 4 is 11 tenths. Alright, finally we have one that we're subtracting with mixed numbers. So before we go on and try to find a common denominator, here's something that will help us, is changing this to 1/2. 2/4 is 1/2. So this should be reduced right away. Okay? Then with subtracting, again, we want to change them to an improper fraction first. So 5 times 3 is 15 plus 2 is 17 thirds. Minus 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5 halves. Alright? Now we want to change it so that it has a common denominator. And that common denominator for this one is going to be 6. So we have to multiply the left one by 2. So we get 34 6 minus, multiply this one by 3. So we get 15 6. And now 34 minus 15 is 19 6. Or if you want to write it as 3 and 1/6, I think that would be a mixed number form of it. Alright, let's go to the last page, last couple problems here. We got a word problem we're going to start off with. So, Peter and Eric bought a large pizza. More pizza. That has 12 slices. John and Eric all ate all the pizza. So if John eats 6 slices, how much did Eric eat? Who ate the most? Who ate more pizza? So we have 12 slices total. And we want to subtract... Well, how much did Eric eat? Well, Eric would have eaten 2/6, right? There's a couple ways we could do this. Let's do 2/6 of that 12. So times 12, or times 12 over 1. Okay? I'm going to bring back that trick that I taught you guys briefly, but if we can reduce either the fractions or diagonally before we multiply, it makes it a lot easier. So right here, 6 and 12 can reduce by dividing by both of them by 6. So we get 1, we get 2. Okay? Now if we multiply straight across, we get 4 over 1, which just equals 4. So that means Eric had 4 pieces of pizza. Who ate more pizza? Well, that was Peter. Peter had 4/6 of it versus 2/6 of it. Alright, number 12. Let's multiply or divide these. Multiplication, reminder, multiply straight across. That's all we do for multiplication, multiply straight across. If we can reduce it first, let's do so. So we can do a diagonal reduce by dividing both these by 2. So we have 3, we have 4. So we get 4 times 9 is 36. 5 times 3 is 15. And we'll leave that answer as an improper fraction. You can also write it as 2 and 6/15, which actually reduces to 2 and 2/5. Alright, dividing. Remember the rules for dividing. Keep the first fraction. Change the symbol. And then flip the second fraction. Keep, change, flip. So we're going to keep this one as 4/5. Change the symbol to multiplication. And flip the other fraction, 10 over 2. Now with our tricks of multiplying, we can multiply straight across. We can reduce though. Divide both these by 2. We get 1, we get 2. Divide both these by 5. We get 1, we get 2. And for this one, we also get 4 over 1, kind of like number 11. 2 times 2 is 4 over 1, or just 4. And last one here, let's change them to mixed numbers or improper fractions first, and then keep, change, flip. So this would be 15, 16, 17 thirds divided by 8, 9, 10 fourths. So keep, change, flip. We're going to say 17 thirds times 4 tenths. Nothing you can simplify here. So 17 times 4 times 2 would be 34, and then times 2 of those would be 68 thirtieths. Just doesn't seem right, but I think that is right. 68 thirtieths. And that can reduce. You can divide both of them by 2, I know. Get 34 15ths. Oh, that's because I forgot to reduce this 4 tenths. Alright. Very last problem. We're going to do the first couple together, and then I'll fill in the rest. Hopefully you can do some on your own. Changing fractions to decimals. Remember, we divide. So really, for this, we're doing long division of 2 divided by 5. But we can't do that, so we have to add a decimal and a 0. So adding a 0, 5 goes into 20 now. 4 times, that's 20. and nothing left over. So our answer is 0.4. All right, now for percents, we move the decimal 2 places to the right. So we have 0.4, go 1, 2 places, and fill in the 0. So you get 40 is our percent. All right, so decimals. We start with a decimal. Same thing goes for changing to a percent. We'll move the 2 places to the right, and we get 75%. However, for changing it to a fraction, we have to look at the place values. So for this one, it goes to the 100th place. So that would be 75 then over 100, which when you reduce it, reduces to 3 over 4. All right, now we're given a percent, and we got to go backwards. So a percent, we're going to move it 2 places back to the left to get the decimal. So we have 0.64. And same thing like before, it goes to the 100th place. So we're going to do 64 over 100. I believe that'll reduce to, we can divide it by 2, we can divide it by 4. If you divide it by 4, you get 25 on the bottom, and you get 16 on top. There we go, 16/25. I'm just going to give you the answers for the other ones, and then you can take a look at the rest and see if you're good to go. 5 1/4 would be 5.25, and that would be 525%. 1.055 would be 100.5%, because we moved the decimal 2 places to the right. And then it would be 1 and 5, that is all the way to the thousandths place. So 5 over 1,000, which will reduce to 1 over 200. And the last one, 415%. Move the decimal back 2 places and you get 4.15. And for this one, since it goes to the hundredths place, it's 4 and 15/100. Okay, which reduces to 4 and 3/20. That's it. That is the answer key for this review worksheet. Use it as you will. Feel free to go back and forth, skip around, whatever you need help with, whatever you need to check. Hope it helps. Have a great rest of your day.